Yeah, I thought I'd stay with the theme. Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook. Are they going to get over that hump? And I think these are still two, more things change, more they stay the same, right? Like two of the biggest question marks, going into this season are going to be, okay, so who's going to play second line center? And I think we're mostly focused on Kirby Dach, but you can put Alex Newhook in that same boat as well, too, right? So there's a couple of ways to define what the hump is. We know that for a Dach, it's health. Like staying healthy is part of that hump, getting over the hump, and being more consistent, being a little bit more intense, and his conditioning and things like that. With Alex Newhook, like he did have some health concerns, like he has missed some games, but for him, I think it's confidence, right? Like getting over that hump. How many he's, I think we're all calling him the nouveau chevreuil, like the new Russ Courtnall or Mondu, the guy that's forgets the puck, but skates really fast and misses a lot of breakaways and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be really important for the season, Frank. It seems like deja vu all over again, right? Last year at this time, we were talking about how Kirby Dach is the kind of like missing ingredient and the biggest kind of question mark going into it. So curious about your thoughts. Like, how critical do you think, figuring out what they have here with Kirby Dach and Newhook is to unlock kind of what's going to happen moving forward here?
Yeah, I'm a big Kirby Dach respecter and defender. I think he really has the potential to be the guy Montreal thought they were getting when they traded for him. The skill set, the size is tantalizing. But yeah, the health has been the major concern, as you've mentioned. So it's really hard to say, like, oh, yeah, he's going to come in and do 70 points this year. I think that's far fetched. Even if they put him in a position to succeed, say at the center of a second line right from the get go with, I don't know, a Patrick Laine and a Ivan Demidov. Like, obviously, these are players that can really get you going offensively. But I don't know that this is exactly how things will play out. There are still, I believe, some concerns about his health at this stage of the offseason. I think there are some question marks still. So I think it's really nearly impossible to predict what we're going to get from Kirby.
Super chat.
We have a super chat. Frankie can finish with your conversation.
Yeah, well, thanks for the super chat help there, Tap. Ultimately, yeah, I think the question mark really is health, and it's impossible to tell right now. I think we have to have tempered expectations this year. So, even to propose something like 50 points, I think would be a reach at this point. We would have to stay very, very mindful of that. And for Newhook, I do have a little bit more optimism. I think he finished with some 30 points last year. Nothing to write home about, right? I don't have the stat lines in front of me, but I don't know that we would have a major bearing on last season's success for Newhook last year. So I think the only way is up in his case. He's still relatively young, right? He's 24, I would say, probably in that range. So it's not like he's a 30-year-old guy. And yeah, you mentioned Russ Courtnall, but who I keep seeing when I see him just get all these chances and not put it in? It reminds me a little bit of Arturi Lehkonen, who had a very similar sort of lots of chances, could never bury. He looked like a guy who could really have 30 goal seasons in Montreal if he only put, half of the chances that he got. If there was just a little bit more luck, just a little bit more of that. So I haven't thrown in the towel in the case of Alex Newhook. I don't believe he's going to be a 70 points season player, but I think there's a step between 30 and 70 that he could be taking, especially if he has some second line duties. As we stand, the only left-handed centerman for the Montreal Canadiens is Veleno. So Joe Veleno, right? He's the only left-handed centerman. So they might have to push Newhook to a higher position because of some matchups, because Kirby Dach might not be fully ready to be a second line center. So, we've seen this story before where Newhook was given ample chances and nothing really happened. But at still age 24, I think it's too early to write it off. So I would
I
be
think
cautiously optimistic about Newhook's taking a little bit of a step here this year.
I think you're kind of onto something. I like the parallel with Lehkonen. If Montreal could have him develop into that profile of player where he's a specialist, maybe more so than a top six guy, but a specialist that, I think a lot of us have speculated that maybe Newhook, now that, they've lost Armia, they're going to need somebody to jump into that regular rotation on the PK, similar to Josh Anderson last year. Is Newhook is he this year's Josh Anderson, in the sense where they give him a very specific role on the PK? He kind of focuses on that, isn't so stressed out about the production, and provides really, really good value there, because the speed that he has. And St. Louis talked about this so much, right? Is that the transition year for him last year, St. Louis was on him about using his speed, not only just to create offense, but to pressure defensively, right? So I think it's an interesting comparable with Lehkonen, right? Like, if he can really kind of become that defensive specialist, but with a little bit of grit, forechecking, and really smart PK, then I think he'll, still be a really important piece. So
in that case, then perhaps the parallel is Paul Byron. A very similar, fast guy who could not bury a goal to save his life in Calgary, got put down waivers, and then had a very successful career as a role player in Montreal. So maybe there's a path there. Obviously, you could draw any parallels you want with any players you want. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but there might be something there to what you just said about being more of a role player. And you're right, the PK, I think he's fully penciled in as the PK guy this year.
Thank you to watching another Habs Nation video. But before we leave, we invite you, don't forget to click on the like, subscribe to the channel, and finally let us a comment about this video. And remember, you have greatness inside of you, and we wishes you an amazing, great, and blessing day.